All right, today we're going to go over FizzBuzz. What is it? And I'm going to walk my way through as I figure it out. So I've done it once in a class, and now I'm trying to get it into my brain, which is what this channel is for. So if you're curious what FizzBuzz is, it is a problem in JavaScript that apparently is used a lot in job interviews. So if you are looking to get into front-end coding or full-stack development, this is something that could pop up, which means you kind of want to know it or know the concept, and just in case it were to show up in an interview. But apparently it gives you good understanding or to be able to see certain components and where you're at with it. So for those of you who don't know, I am following 100 Devs, which is a free coding bootcamp, not by me, but it's by a guy named Leon Noel. I think it's Noel or No, I don't know. But by Leon, he puts his stuff up on Twitch, and he did it live a couple years ago, and now it is on YouTube for anybody who wants to join Team Replay and learn along. So I'm on class 19, which means I have gone through HTML, CSS, and now I'm at JavaScript. So this is something he mentioned in my last class that I just did with him, where next we are going into arrays, but we're gonna spend some time on this. So what the heck is this FizzBuzz problem? All right, so FizzBuzz is this question right here up at the top. And we're using JavaScript to do this, and I'm going to walk through as I'm problem solving this. So we're going to use loops, which means it's going to kind of keep repeating, but we're going to create a function that takes in a number. Then I want it to console log all the values from 1 to whatever number I give it, but if that number is divisible by 3, I want fizz to appear instead of 3. If the number is divisible by 5, I want buzz to appear instead of whatever that number is that's divisible by 5. And if the number is divisible by 3 and 5, I want FizzBuzz to appear. Not buzz fizz, fizz buzz. I want FizzBuzz to appear instead of whatever that number is. So in order to do that, we kind of need to know a little bit of the basics of what's the idea of we're going to use. So for this, we're going to use Modulus, which is this percent symbol. The percent symbol basically gives you the remainder of something. So if I'm looking for something that's divisible by 3, let's say 3 divided by 3, 3 divided by 3, the remainder, so 3 goes into 3 once with a remainder of 0, which means that it would be a remainder of 0. Now, if I want to do something divided by 5, same thing. It would be, if something's divided by 5, it would have a remainder of 0. So if I did 10 divided by 5, that would be 2 with a remainder of 0. So we're kind of going back to school, math class a little bit. You can also use your calculator if you want. Something divided by 3, it's 1, and there's nothing left over. But if I did, let's say, 4 divided by 3, it's got a period with some numbers. So that is the remainder, which means anything that has a remainder of 0 is divisible by 3 or divisible by 5 or divisible by what that number is. So we're going to use that to help us figure this out. So the first thing we need to do is basically create a function, and I'm going to name it FizzBuzz. And then I have to give it what it is that I am looking at, and I'm looking at a number, so I'm going to just put num. Then I need to put my curly brackets, and my curly brackets are going to keep going down as I go. So I have my function FizzBuzz, and now I need to figure out what are the parameters of FizzBuzz. So I am going to do a for if statement. So for a certain amount of things, and then if something happens, then I want something to appear. And if something else happens, I want something to appear. If something else happens, I want it to appear. But if it doesn't happen, then I want it to just give me the number. So basically, if it's not giving me something divisible by 3, divisible by 5, I want it to just give me a number. So I'm going to give it the divisible by 3, the divisible by 5, and the 3 and 5 command, but I want it to basically tell me the number at the end if it isn't one of those things. So for, I'm going to say let's let, because the number is going to change. So let's say let I, which just basically any integer, any number, So I want I equal 1. And I'm starting with 1 because this says console log all values from 1 to that number. So if this had a different number, I would put that starting number right here. But I want to let I equal 1. Then I need to give it the parameter where I would want it to stop. So I want it to be less than or equal to whatever number I end up giving it. So I'm going to put num. Then I want every time the number goes, so every time this loop runs, I want it to add 1 to it. And I do that by saying plus plus. So now it's going to go 1, and then it's going to run again. It's going to do 1 plus 1. So it'll run 2. Then it's going to go 2 plus 1 and run 3. So it's going to keep going to whatever the number is that I give it. So if that's happening, then I need to give the little curly bracket. So if that happens, so for this circumstance, now if it's divisible by 3, so if I is divisible by 3, and I'm going to do that with the remainder, the remainder should equal 0. And I'm putting 3 equals, because if I do 1, I'm reassigning. But if I do 3, it's saying this needs to be equal to this very specifically. So if it's divisible by 3, then I want it to be 0. So that's going to be one of my commands. Then I am going to do another little curly bracket. All right, so if it reaches that, then I want it to console log, which means it's going to show up in the console when I put things in. It's going to show up as fizz. And I got that from it telling me what it should be up here. So it should be fizz. All right, so then I'm going to do another little curly bracket. Actually, no, I'm not. No, so I've got the curly to the curly. Then on this one, I'm going to put else if. So if the remainder is 0, and it's so if it's divisible by 3 and the remainder is 0, it's going to say fizz. But if that doesn't happen, then it's going to go to this step. So for this one, if I is divisible by 5 and that remainder equals 0, then curly bracket, I'm going to have it console log buzz. Okay, so it's going to do fizz if it's divisible by 3 and the remainder is 0. If it's not, it's going to go to this, which is divisible by 5, and the remainder is 0. It's going to do buzz. So then my next one would be else if the two of them together. So if I %3 is equal to 0, so if the remainder is 0 and it's divisible by 3, and which would be 2 and symbols, or it would be 2 straight lines like this, but I want it to be and so that it's divisible by 5 and 3. So I need to do the and symbols. If that's the case, and I is divisible by 5 and the remainder is 0. Perfect. Then it's going to console log. FizzBuzz. All right. Now, I actually did something wrong, and I did it on purpose because I want to remember not to do this. And thinking it through this way helps me remember that. So if you can figure out what I'm doing wrong, fantastic. But I have if it's divisible by 3, if it's divisible by 5, if it's divisible by 5 and 3, and then if none of those are the case, I need something to tell it to actually give me the number. So that's what this else is going to be. So I'm going to say consolelog, and then I'm going to have it just give me the number. So that is basically all of them. I have this one has an end, this one has an end, this one has an end, this one, I don't want one there. There we go. Okay, my brackets did not match up, so I had to fix that. And then basically, I'm still have something wrong here. So let's see if you can figure it out. But I'm going to show, we're going to do the console log so that we see it get messed up. All right, so in order to do this, what I need to do is I'm going to go open the HTML in the browser. I'm going to use Chrome, so this is it. And then I'm going to open up the console. So you can do that by either using a keyboard shortcut or coming up here into the top and clicking View, Developer, Developer Tools. All right, so once you have this console open, basically what you can do is come on over here and we can type FizzBuzz. Remember to have the correct capitalization, put a parentheses and a number. And you could choose any number, but we want to get at least something that's divisible by 5 and 3, which is 15. So we're going to run it. Now, again, there's still something wrong with this. So we've got 1, 2, 3 is fizz, 4, 5 is buzz, 6 is fizz, and it's replacing the ones that are divisible by the right ones. However, 15 is only coming up as fizz, which is wrong. It should be our FizzBuzz one. So the reason that happened is because this function is running the 3, the 5, and then the 3 and the 5. So as soon as it's divisible by 3, it's giving it a fizz. So 15 is showing up as fizz. It basically stopped running when it got to the number 15 once it met this if. Which means in order for this to actually work correctly, we need to move this to the top up here. So instead, we would have it as the 3 and the divisible by 5 is at the top, giving us FizzBuzz. Then if that's not met, it goes to the 3. If that's not met, it goes to the 5. Because this is the more complicated one, we need it first. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh this. And I'm going to come over here and do the same thing, and it should fix it. So we want to run FizzBuzz, and again, I'll do 20. And now 15 is FizzBuzz. Yay! All right, so that is the FizzBuzz dilemma. And just remember, whatever the number is, the I equals 1 is starting there because it's 1 up there. Yeah, so I hope that this was helpful. It helped me talk through it. I'm going to practice this a few more times. But yeah,